To be fair, you have this talent of catching me somewhere around the world and surprising me with, immediate request to join. I'm installing a water system in Dominican. I'm actually using a friend's house to be able to join you now. I even borrowed his shirt because I'm in the jungle somewhere half naked. So I'm sorry for the inconvenient appearance, but I haven't shaved. I haven't done anything. So I'm in the bush. I spend my life in the bush. Can anybody hear me?
We can all hear you. Although we are kind of backstage, we want to give you center stage. Okay. We're in the background listening.
No problem. My name is Sebastian Tirtirau. I'm Romanian by origin. I'm a Canadian citizen. I lived in Canada. I arrived in Canada in 1999 from Africa. My life is pretty much a travel show. I've been to a lot of countries, and I've been working in a lot of countries in Africa, 45 out of the 55 countries in Africa, installing water systems to very remote communities. And I lived and worked with the Bushmen of the Kalahari for 16 years. I'm adopted by them in 1998. I've been adopted by the Bushmen of the Kalahari, where they introduced me to their world, their culture. I became their voice around the world for their suffering and plight. And I discovered the immense need for water in Africa. And of course, how this affects actually the smallest of them all, the children of Africa, which have been my priority since I started this work in 1994, when Nelson Mandela was freed from prison and elected president. I studied in Cape Town anthropology and philosophy in 94 to 97. I did a thesis on the Bushmen of the Kalahari while I was a student. I had to go there in the Kalahari to meet them and see who they are, because I fell in love with them. And when I met them, I realized the tremendous suffering they were under. Children in the Kalahari before the age of 5 were dying in percentages of around 80% because of lack of access to clean water. If you know, the Bushmen are the San people, not the Bushmen anymore. Nobody calls them that. It's just a name that caught up in the rest of the world with the movies The Gods Must Be Crazy 1 and 2. The guy that played there was my best friend in the Kalahari. His name was Galkana. His name in the movie was Ngao. So the Bushman name became very popular around the world, but it's actually a derogative name. It is never used in direct relationship with them. Their name are San. They are split into 4 major family groups. They are the oldest people on the continent, and right now the latest genealogical studies discover that they are some of our oldest ancestors. And I became part of one of the 4 groups of the San people called the Junwansi. They speak a Kung language, and they're extraordinary. They are my first love and my greatest love. Since 2010, my wife and I were taking care of 300 orphans in Zambia, sponsoring them in school. We do not have an orphanage. I want to make this clear from the beginning, because there's a lot of confusion and misinterpretation and misinformation about orphanages around the world. I do not believe in the institution of orphanage. I do not believe in putting kids in dormitories and cafeterias and at 18 years old to just release them back into the world with no skills. My father was an orphan, and all the orphan stories that I know from around the world are traumatic and a lot of exploitation and manipulation. Our orphans live with their villages. I spent at least 3 years working with the local villages where the orphans come from to be able to adopt these children into their families, as long as we provide the food, the clothing, the medical care, and the school fees, so they don't have an extra financial burden to raise them. This way, our kids, 300 orphans in Zambia, grow up in their language, in their society, in their culture, and they do not, they are not marginalized or ostracized by the rest of the community because they are orphans. So that for me was one of the most beautiful things that we could do. And yet a month and a half ago, our orphan number just doubled to 600 because I discovered a very rough situation with 300 sand kids that are trying to live in a hostel about 3 kilometers from their school deep in Namibia in the northern Kalahari system. And they have no conditions to live in, to eat, and to live a decent life. So I adopted those two, and now in 5 days I'm going there so we can renovate their place and give them a better, standard of life. To date, we installed, my team and I, we installed about 150 water system powered by solar technology around Africa. About 500,000 people are drinking water from there. I buy the systems myself, and my team, which is a volunteer team, we go and install the systems ourselves, no matter how deep or how remote they are. We do not have secretaries or buildings or fleets of cars. I have a 23-year-old Land Rover that is beat up, and we drive to all of the remote villages. We all have our jobs. I have a safari adventure company in Canada that is financing and is helping this. So the charity that I have also in Canada is able to do everything 100% with the funds towards the projects that we need to do. And I've been working in the Amazon for 5 years with the remote tribes in the Amazon. I've been to the Arctic 6 times, working with the Inuit of the Arctic in northern Canada. I'm adopted by the Kiai tribe in Vanuatu, South Pacific, a very remote tribe in Espiritu Santo, deep in the mountains, where we installed 6 water systems as well. So over the past 27 years, since I started this in 1994, 28 now in January, wow, it's coming. I traveled to 151 countries and worked and delivered a lot of this aid to very remote communities. I'm passionate about remote communities because of my anthropological background. I'm fascinated by our First Nations around the world. I'm fascinated by their survival, by their stamina, by their stories, by their cultures and ideologies. And I think that we would lose a huge amount of wealth and information with the loss and extinction of this First Nations, that like we do with the San, the Kalahari, the Pygmies of the Congo, where I spent 3.5 years with them as well. So it's something that gave me direction, goal, and passion for the last 27 years, 28 soon. But the greatest challenge right now, of course, as we all know, it's what's happening to our world today with this pandemic. The whole world has shut down their charitable pockets. Meanwhile, the greatest affected people, like before, are the children of Africa and the rest of the world in developing countries. And now it's even worse because we have displaced children. We have, conflicts coming up. There's a lot of instability because of the economic situation and political situation that's going on around the world. So at this stage, we're just, going forward, and we do continue to give water systems to these remote people and to take care of the children as much as we can. In short, seeing that I'm jumping out of the jungle with a machete in my hand and it's pouring rain outside to an internet presentation out of the blue, right now it's pretty much in general terms what I can present to you today. Now I can see everybody. It's easier when I see everybody. I can't hear anybody.
Okay, now here we go. I said, thank you so much, Sebastian. Your story is so inspiring. And before we jump into our question and answer session, I want to share the video that demonstrates the power of African women getting access to water. Now, Sebastian set up a group of women with a water system. And this is a short video that really demonstrates the power of getting access to water.
Hello, everyone. Well, after 2,900 kilometers from Dar es Salaam, we're almost close to Livingston. This is April 2021. I'm back in the village of Simuami. Remember, those of you that have seen our project from December last year, we came to the village of Simuami to install a water system in a community of over 1,000 people. It was bone dry at that time. They had no water. They were going 20 kilometers away with a donkey to fetch water for drinking. And we came in December and we installed this system that you see behind me with the solar panels. And you can see here the two 5,000 liter tanks that is providing water for this community. I came specifically 4 months later here to show you the amazing transformation of this village. I want to show you that water does not just satisfy the thirst of people, but it transforms the community to give them food, healthy animals, clean children, and they use the water for almost everything, of course. I want to show you now the gardens here. In December, this was completely dry. Now they have a lot of tomatoes, garlic, peppers, salad, kale, cabbage, and corn. This whole fields right here, you can see behind me, the peppers and the corn. This whole fields, all fields here in December were completely dry and empty. And now they have a bountiful crop of veggies that they use for food, and also they create income because they sell the veggies at the market. So they stopped doing the charcoal to cut down trees and create charcoal so they can make a little bit of money for them to live. And now they live off the land, off the veggies of the land, and they create an income. So water transformed this community completely, and it's giving them a better life. This is exactly the purpose that I want in every village that we install across Africa. It's to improve the livelihoods of these people, the chances of survival for children, and the transformation of the community so they can have a better life. It is fantastic to see so much bounty here and so much production of veggies from just one water system. I'm going to show you the corn crop. We gave them 1 bag of corn last year in December for them to plant, and the soil here in Zambia is so fertile and so good in minerals that it creates a lot of abundance when they plant things, as long as they have water. And I want to show you the community leader who is responsible for this system right there, Zenelia. Zenelia has never met me before December. Right, Zenelia? We never met, right?
No, we didn't meet.
And you wrote to me on Facebook.
I did.
And you just took a chance.
Serious, Chelsea.
You took a chance and you said, Sebastian, in case you pass by, we have a need. this is what we do. We came to visit, and then we managed to install the system. And Zenelia is the visionary behind all this. She took a chance with a stranger, and now the whole village is having an amazing production of veggies and clean water, right?
Yes, and everyone is appreciating. People are coming even to visit and see what is happening because they want this to be replicated even in the villages. Yes.
So other villages see this and they want
Yes, and
the
others
same.
even come to help
and also get water.
Water, for water, everyone gets water from here.
Everyone.
Yes, everyone.
Good. Thank you, Zenelia. Let me show you the corn crop. I love this village. It's so beautiful and so friendly. And I want to show you here the cabbage that they planted, also with the water from the system. All the trees are green, the mangoes, the guavas, the lemons, and the oranges, the avocados. Look at this crop of corn. This is only part of the crop from the bag of corn we gave them last December. They still have to harvest some more, and this way they will have food throughout the coming winter and dry season. We're trying to also create a garlic farm here. Garlic is very expensive and very rare in Zambia. It will be an amazing cash crop for the community to give them an income and to develop this place that we installed the water system. I want to thank you all for those that have been involved in this. This community is drinking water and is living a better life because those of you that have supported have believed in this project from the beginning. And I want to thank you personally for that. Stay tuned. We're going down to more systems, more needy villages, and we'll keep you updated.
Thank you, Zenelia.
Wow. Amazing.
Wow. Thank you, Sebastian.
Yeah, it's exciting because you see, women in Africa are so much better than any man I met in Africa in leadership in the villages, because they have a mother spirit. They care not just for themselves, but they care for the community as a family. Okay. And for me, this was spectacular because I'm fighting, especially in Zambia, in Congo, in Tanzania. I'm fighting a lot of traditional stubbornness of men community leaders who do not allow the girls to go to school. Girls should not play volleyball. Girls at 14 should marry. And then, half of my children in school, more than half are girls. And the battle I had with a lot of chiefs to let them go to school, it's unbelievable. I mean, you have no idea what I had to go through to convince them to let them go to school and not force them to marry. So to see community leaders like this lady, Zenelia, who took a chance on me, she never met me before, and now the entire village of over 1,000 people are flourishing because of this water system. So for me, that's a gorgeous thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sebastian, we need to get to know you a little bit. Your backstory.
My backstory.
Yes, I know your backstory, but I think it's important for people to understand who you really are, what motivates and what drives you.
I am a bold, bearded, gray hair guy. Yes, a lot of people are asking me, but what motivated you 27 years to go through all these countries and jungles and deserts and so forth, and go through all this and with a family and a child and so forth? You see, I was raised in a communist country in Romania. As you all know, Romania was a communist country. At the age of 14, I was a very young boy. The government took me and I became a professional soldier at 14 years old. They trained me there for 3 years. And after 3 years, my eldest brother, 3 years older than me, fled the country illegally to Sweden. And at that stage, this kind of thing was a crime, was a horrible crime. And the government, not being able to punish my brother, they kicked me out of the military school, and I took the punishment for him, because the next of kin had to be punished for what the other brother did. So, out of the blue, the story of my life, I was doing my stuff. I never ever had dreams of rebellion against the government or running away. And suddenly I'm considered a criminal. After 3 years, I was a hero and I was a soldier. I was trained by them. Suddenly I'm a criminal because my brother dared to flee the country to Sweden. And they threw me in a political prison for 2 years, where they beat the crap out of me for 2 years. The torture system, the starving. I was an 18-year-old kid at that time. And I just didn't understand, what happens. Why is this happening? So luckily, somehow I survived. I had friends that did not do the same thing. And then communism, the revolution in Romania and Eastern Europe started in '89 in December, if you remember the falling of the wall in Berlin and so forth. I was in prison at that time. I was almost 19. And suddenly we were, free. And the first moment I got out, I was 6'2" by now already. 6'2", and I was weighing about 80 pounds for Americans and about 40 kilos for the rest of the world. I came home, my parents didn't recognize me. They looked at me and said, we have no idea. They didn't know anything about me for 2 years. And then I had two choices in front of me. One that was much easier, like the same with all my friends around from those times in those prisons and all those, military battalions there, is to become an alcoholic, a drug addict, and forget everything about it, because it's the easiest way to deal with the problems that you have to deal with. But I said, well, let me try another option. Let me try and use this experience and this information that I got of all these situations in my life to actually do the same and help others that have no voice, like me. I had no voice, in prison. I was a young kid. Nobody knew about me. So I said, let me use this to see if I can make a difference in somebody else's life. And the first thing I did when I was free and old enough, besides getting married and getting a child, was to go to Africa. You see, I was fascinated by Africa since I was like 8 or 9 years old. I don't remember exactly how it started, but I do remember my father having me on his knee with a world atlas and showing me Africa. And then I read a few books on Africa. When I was 10 years old, I was spending a lot of time in library. And I got fascinated by Africa. And, after revolution in Europe, in Eastern Europe, all my friends were fleeing for US, Canada, or Australia, the land of milk and honey. And I was the only one who jumped to go to Africa. And everybody's looking at me and said, are you insane? You have a child and a young wife. Are you going to South Africa? Nelson Mandela was just released. Are you out of your mind? It's going to be murder. It's going to be crime in their place. They're going to kill you. And I said, no, I'm going straight there. So I left for Africa. I studied in Cape Town for the next 3 years. And that's how I started to meet the Bushmen. And the moment I met the Bushmen, obviously, some things were unresolved in my mind from prison, because the moment they saw me and they met me and they started to know me, they said, you have a broken soul, and you're not healed yet, you know. And that's what happened with the Bushmen. And you know, when they adopted me in '98, I finally understood why I had to go through all that I did to do what I do now.
Wow. Wow, absolutely amazing, amazing story, Sebastian. Thank you for harnessing the pain you went through as a young boy and turned it into the gold that is the work you are doing, in particular for the children of Africa. I feel so honored to have met you. I can't even remember how we connected, but the universe has got a magical way of bringing the right people in my life. So ladies, let's open up the floor for questions, comments.
Sebastian,
Okay.
Yes.
what you're doing, you know, it's unbelievable. You know, like people from Africa, they don't understand. I don't think they would understand the love you have for a human being. Understand the needs, because water is human need. And if you deny people water, then you've killed them.
Yeah.
And so you are at the center of it. To say, this is why I'm on this earth. This is what I'm supposed to share, to give, to save these people. And I'm so grateful for you. Honestly, thank you so much for the work you do. It's quite, I mean, it made me cry that, you know, it's like at 10 years, you were reading books. You were following, you fell in love with doing good to other people who were underprivileged. And
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
The Bushmen. I know my auntie, you know, kept some in Botswana. She looked after some Bushmen who are still her kids, but they still go out. They still have that nature. They were not born. I mean, they had kids, their own kids in the houses, in my aunt's house. But still, they go out sometimes. They still feel we belong there. But
For sure.
is just going to give them water so that people can be stable.
That's right.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank
you.
You
know, people ask me, but you know, there will always be poor people. There will always be thirsty people, and so forth. And I said, this is the typical cliche of people that want to find an excuse not to do anything. But for me, you see, I met Nelson Mandela. He was, as part of our class, we went through the Parliament building in Cape Town, and he was there, and we met him collectively, and he said two things there that they became my motto. One was that poverty is not a natural disaster. It's not something God-given. It's man-made, and therefore it's not an act of charity to stop poverty. It's an act of justice. Okay? So for me, that was the one of the greatest revelations, because people say, oh, you give a piece of bread to these poor people or a glass of water, but I said, no, I'm fighting for justice.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you, fill my heart.
Yeah.
Paula.
Oh, I can hardly speak. Blown away, really. What an amazing person.
No, I don't think so.
I think you do.
Yeah.
A little angel here on earth.
Well, bald and bearded, so there's the problem with that angel. As far as angels are concerned, they could be better looking than this.
But fascinating, though, that you with the anthropology, it must have been fascinating for you when you had that love of that and how the different sort of tribes and everything created, that you now then get to help those very people and keep their existence going.
Yeah.
And the water, I mean, that's classic, isn't it? Because where they say, give a man a fish, he'll feed his family for a day. Teach a man how to fish, and he'll feed his family for life. And you've been able to do that.
Exactly. And water is for me. Water is the most basic, fundamental human right. I mean, you can have the greatest house, you can have the greatest car, the greatest bank accounts. You can, if you do not have a glass of water, you're done, you're finished, and it's over. So for me, this is my life defining moment is water. I came there as an anthropologist because I was curious about these people, but when I saw what they go through, I dropped everything and I said, you know what, much bigger things are ahead than this. So that's how I started.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So how does your wife and your son feel? Are they still supportive? And
my wife is with me right here in Dominican. She's been with me many years to Africa. I went around the world on a motorbike to raise funding for my kids about 9 years ago. 75,000 kilometers, 35 countries. My wife and I on a bike that we had. My daughter is 28 years old almost. She has a baby herself. I'm a grandpa since April, like Gertrude. Both of us, I think, in the same time. And she grew up with the San in the Kalahari. She still does the clicking language, and she's still in love with Africa. So it changed our entire family, and it just brought a different perspective. So yes, we're all involved in this.
oh, brilliant! Thank you.
Miss Renee, you're quiet.
I was letting everybody talk, Gertrude. I mean, when I be doing too much, y'all be saying I be doing too much. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm amazed at just the fact being that you've taken on this pilgrimage to make things better, and with it's real selflessness is what you're showing. My question is, are you funding this yourself, or do you get donations, or do you have like people that you rely on to help you with this project? And how much does to do it to a village? That's two questions. I'm sorry. How much would it cost to get water into a village, like with the way you do it?
Thank you for the question. Is it Renee, right?
Renee, yes, sir.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Renee. Yeah, I'm funding a lot of these projects from my profits with my tour company, but of course it's never sufficient. So I have friends, family. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. So I have friends, family, and people that find out, even clients of mine that I take on tours in Africa. One of my highlights in my tours, for example, in Southern African tours, is to spend half a day with my kids, in the village, because I don't believe in tourism as the tourism is portrayed in the rest of the world, as in you sit in a 5-star resort and then you go home and say, I've been to Africa. You haven't been to Africa until you've seen how Africans live and you experience how they live their lives. So most of my tours go through there, and then some of my clients decide to help sponsor a child in school and so forth. So I have sponsors from all over the world for that. So I have a charity for that in Canada as well that deals with that. But I'm funding a lot of the things myself. For example, my volunteers, I pay for their flights and for their food. They come with me. We don't take money from the charity. I sponsored 25 children myself, my wife and I. My daughter sponsors 10. So things like that. As far as the water system, it all depends from village to village, because sometimes I have to drill a borehole and I have to pay for the company to drill the borehole. A lot of the villages have the boreholes. So about 80% of our systems have the borehole drilled. but they have no system. So that typically a system like that with a borehole depth of about 100 feet, 120 feet, or 30, 35 meters, it costs about $5,000 US with all the installation, the water tank, the stand, like you've seen in the video, the entire setup there to give them water.
Is that including the drilling, Sebastian?
No, the drilling is on top, because I'm talking about the ones that already have a borehole existent in their village. If I have to drill, it costs between 150 and 250 US per meter every time we drill. So that depends on how deep we have to drill to do it, just to give you an idea. I have now, for these new orphan kids from the Sand people, I have to drill a borehole now. It's 100 meters, and it costs me about 100 meters, about $2,300. No, it's more. It costs me $7,000 to drill the borehole in Namibia.
Okay. So one of the things that you guys need to know is the lower the water table, the more expensive it gets, because they have to go quite deep.
Yeah, and they have, of course, to use more pipe and more drilling heads, which are diamond. So they break it into the rocks, depends on the rocky terrain and so forth. There's a lot of factors that go on there.
Yeah.
Listen, 2 seconds, I need to find the cable, my battery is dying.
Okay, go for it. I'll talk in the meantime. So when I met Sebastian, I told him about my project in Zimbabwe. I have taken over a primary school in the village where my ex-husband was born. His father used to be a teacher at this school, and we adopted a school almost 20 years ago. There was no electricity, no running water. It has been a mission to try and raise the funds to turn that particular dream into reality. The last thing I managed to do before COVID was to have a borehole drilled. So we have a borehole. We're trying to raise the $5,000 to get Sebastian to go in, set up a solar system. So we have solar energy to pump the water into the tanks. Now, one of the things about rural Zimbabwe is that the land is not for sale. So I have gone back to my local chief and negotiated for him to gift the Africa Thrive Project some land. And the vision is that once we have water and we've got the land, we can start a market gardening project so that we can make sure that the children get a meal. So just getting porridge in the morning, starting a corn project like what you just saw. So the kids get a bowl of porridge, peanut butter, sauce to give them a bit of sustenance. I started this in 2007. I had gone home. I watched the children coming to class, and within 10 minutes of sitting down at their desks, they all fell asleep.
Oh, wow.
And I said to the principal, what's going on? These kids are under 12. There's no energy in the school. Most children were eating 2 or 3 times a week if they were lucky. So we started a feeding program. We started giving the children porridge. And what happened with the porridge is all the villagers started sending the under 5-year-olds to the school for food every morning. How do you turn away an under 5-year-old child? It forced me to start a preschool. So we now have a preschool in the school. And those mothers who would go into the fields with babies on their backs in the hot sun trying to work have now got a safe place to leave the children. It's doubled our role of students, people participating. We solved the electricity problem by getting a community to come together to the school and brainstorm the ideas. One thing I learned about Africa is that people have got the solution to all of their problems. We go in as facilitators for change. So I now show up in my village with a whiteboard and a pen, and we brainstorm ideas with the community on how to solve the problem. One of my aunts came up with a solution. This woman had 7 children who died of AIDS during the AIDS pandemic. She was 92. She had 15 grandchildren under the age of 12, no income. And she said to me, Gertrude, we are traveling to the next village to get the corn ground. So the women are the mules. They will carry 50 kg bags of corn on their heads, walk 15 kilometers in one direction, 15 kilometers back. She said, why don't you invest in a grinding mill? Install it at the school. People are spending money 15 kilometers away. Do you know it cost me $500 to solve the electricity problem? We installed a grinding mill that belongs to the school community. The whole community is now coming to the school to get their corn ground. The money they generate pays for the electricity bill. So these are some of the projects that we are involved in as the HerStory movement. And Sebastian, I cannot thank you enough for saying yes to just jumping online at the last minute to come and share this story. You are one of our foot soldiers on the ground doing the work. And I am appealing to people of African descent in particular, who are outside of the country, to invest in these kind of projects. If you have a community back home that is needing help in terms of water, Sebastian is there to facilitate getting water to people. It doesn't take a lot to raise $5,000. It will probably cost 10, maybe 15 all up with the drilling. So please get hold of us, email me, and let's get water into communities, because when you have water, that's when change really comes. Sebastian, any parting thoughts, anything else, any other help that we can support you with, lift you with, so you're able to do the work?
No, if people are watching, they can, of course, write to you. You are the negotiator and the power force behind this, the drive. So I have no doubt, that people will be interested. They want to know more about my story. They can go to my website as well. It's very easy, pilgrim-movement.org, or my Sebastian.tirtirau.com. You have them both, Gertrude, no problem if people are interested. My dream is when I'm 60, which is about 9 years away, I want to have 2 million children in Africa given water with my systems, and 1 million adults. Right now we have 500,000. So I have another 1.5 million to go in the next 9 years, 8.5, 9 years to finish this. And people say it's impossible. Well, I tell you what, when people say it's impossible, I do it twice and I take pictures just to make sure that people understand that this can be done. Yeah, so people told me it's impossible for a Romanian to leave from Romania and become a bushman or a Kiai, or go to Congo or go to the Arctic and freeze his ass in an igloo for 3 weeks, 5 years, one after another, or go to the Amazon and so forth. And every time I did it, I took pictures, I sent it back and said, hey, listen, I've done it, and I've done it 3, 4, 5, 7, 6 times. So this is what I want people to remember. There's no barriers of culture, of language. You don't need to be a rich millionaire to do this. If you have it in you, if you have the drive in you, nothing can stop you. But at the bottom of all this, and at the base of all this, for me, the most important thing is, what do we do for others? What do I leave behind when I'm dead? And my legacy has to speak in water for the children of Africa.
So are you Wolfman, the Iceman?
No.
Excuse me?
No. Okay. All right.
So, Sebastian, my last question for you before I release you. I don't even know what time it is there. I forgot to ask. Why is giving so important for the future of humanity?
It is the only way that we qualify as humans. Is what we do for others that are in a much worse situation than us. I mean, I spoke with a billionaire the other day, very interested to hear from me, because my YouTube channel has like 3 million views or something like that. I don't even know. And he said, wow, I'm interested. Tell me more about this water systems and blah, blah, blah. And I tell him, and he says, wow, what if we build 2,000 water systems across Africa to 500 million people, and then we install a meter and they pay $1 per week, everyone, for the systems. Imagine how much money we would make. I said, you know what?
No.
Why don't you take your billions, shove it somewhere, and leave me alone, because I will never do this. So, for me, the definition of a human being is not how many times you go to church, how nice clothes you have, or how many times you pray during the day, or what's your religion, or what's your faith. For me, the greatest definition of humanity. And people that ask me, what is your religion? I tell them my religion is taking care of orphans and of the poor. If anybody has a problem with that, then I think there should be some change of perspective, because I don't see, for me or for the people that I work with, any better definition of being a human being is just to take care of the children who have not asked to be in this world, are innocent of all our problems and all our situations, and they are the ones who suffer the most. So that's my story.
Thank you, Sebastian. Absolute honor to reconnect with you, my brother. We will meet in person one of these days, and we will dance.
Very nice to meet you, ladies. I wish you a good evening, I think, or night or day, whatever you are, and everybody else that's watching. And we'll be in touch, Gertrude. Thank you. I'm going back into the jungle.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.